Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Kung Fu Panda 4. It released, and it is slightly underwhelming. Let's dive into this.
Modern Movie Review.
Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying this. If you are a parent and you are looking to take your kids to this movie, go see it. It's a great time at the theaters. It's a funny movie. It's definitely not terrible, but I kind of overhyped this in my own head. I had a lot of predictions of things that were going to happen in the movie. The second I found out Tai Lung was going to be in it, I figured, okay, this is going to be a really good movie. The villain being voiced by Viola Davis was an incredible casting decision. The chameleon as a concept is fantastic, and I was expecting this movie to be incredible, and I would honestly just have so much faith in DreamWorks after watching Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I feel like DreamWorks couldn't do anything wrong, so I kind of set my expectations for this movie really, really high. That being said, it's an okay movie. At the end of the day, it's not going to be as deep as some of the earlier movies in the franchise. For the most part, there's going to be a lot more silly jokes that aren't necessarily, the best. There's going to be moments that are kind of underwhelming in the action department compared to the original, which did a really good job of having a lot of choreography and having a lot of action sequences that felt more realistic. But that being said, this doesn't shy away from the fighting and stuff that we liked from the original movies. So I'm going to dive more into some of the stuff that I disliked about this movie, and I'm going to go ahead and issue a spoiler warning for anybody who has not seen the movie. I'm going to be talking about specific character decisions that they made and specific marketing decisions that they make that are kind of the reason why I'm not a huge fan of this movie. So that being said, spoiler alert for things going forward. Let's get into this. Alrighty, my first complaint, and I'm not going to dive too far into this because I just made like a 5-minute section of a video a couple weeks ago about this, so I'm not going to dive too much into this because I've talked about it a lot. Marketing this year has been pretty terrible, and a lot of the studios keep doing the same exact thing, which is driving me insane, where they are advertising that, oh my god, you see this character? You like this character? You like this actress? You like the person who plays this character? Cool, they're going to be in the movie, and then they'll show 3 or 4 different clips of the person throughout the length of the trailer, and then you'll be really excited because you're like, oh my god, they're showing this much of the person in the trailer. I can't imagine how much they're going to be in the actual movie. And then you go and you watch the movie, and they're in it for all of the scenes that they show in the trailer, and that's it. And for me, that happened with Tai Lung. Tai Lung was said to return. He's on the poster. He has multiple sequences in the trailer where you see him, and in my opinion, the way that they kind of like teased the trailer kind of made it seem like things were going to be in kind of a different order, and that's part of the reason why I really dislike this movie. Is I was really excited for Tai Lung. I thought that Tai Lung was going to have a redemption arc. I thought that he was going to come back and he was going to have a really big moment. This was going to be secretly, he was going to be a big part of this movie. And he is in the movie for maybe about 2 minutes in total. And it was relatively disappointing. Something that I don't like. I'm going to show a screenshot of a scene right now. I figured that this scene was going to be one of the opening scenes. We were going to see Tai Lung return. He was going to beat up a bunch of people in this room, and then the chameleon was going to show up, and the chameleon was going to steal his powers, and it was going to be a good way to set up how powerful of a threat that this new villain is. That sequence happens towards the end of the movie, and part of the reason why I really have a big problem with that is earlier in the movie she is able to just like, I guess, turn into people and like look like them and sound like them and stuff like that, but she never interacts with Tai Lung at all before that. So it's really, really interesting to me that, like, the first time we see Tai Lung, it's actually the scaly one. It's actually the chameleon pretending to be Tai Lung. And they kind of fake us out with this opening sequence where we're watching a bunch of people who are iron miners, and Tai Lung shows up throughout the mountains or whatever, and he starts attacking a bunch of people and destroying their stuff. And he basically says, I am back, and I've come for the Dragon Warrior, or whatever he says. And it's like, oh my god, there's this really threatening moment. But you can see he's scaly. Like, I pointed this out when I did my kind of like breakdown of the trailer. You can tell when it's the chameleon version of the character because they're scaly versus when it's the actual character. So obviously for kids, that's probably going to be like a big revealing moment for them. But for me personally, I'm watching this and I'm just like, oh, the chameleon's already Tai Lung. And the entire movie, I was just kind of sitting there like, so is everything with Tai Lung in this movie going to be a flashback? Like, that's pretty disappointing, and I was very, very upset about that. And specifically, part of the reason why I was upset about this is because, like I said, I thought Tai Lung was going to have a redemption arc in this. I understand why he wouldn't. He was in the spirit realm. He passed away or whatever. He's not with us anymore. So why would he come back and he'd have a redemption arc? I guess I was kind of ridiculous for thinking that. But it's really weird to me because the opening scene does a good job of setting up, oh, Tai Lung's a threat. Oh my god, people need to worry about Tai Lung. Tai Lung said he's coming for the Dragon Warrior, and he's going to go back to that town that they all live in, that village, and he's going to wreak havoc. And everybody should be really concerned. They should be panicking because Tai Lung was one of the fiercest warriors ever. And the first time him and Po fought, it was a really, really big deal. And Po just barely scraped by, right? But now they basically get revealed that it's the chameleon almost immediately. Like, almost immediately, Awkwafina's character shows up, and she's like, oh, that's not Tai Lung. That's clearly the chameleon. That's clearly somebody who could pretend to be Tai Lung. Tai Lung's not actually back. It's definitely the chameleon. And that conversation between her and Po is something that somehow the entire town knows now. The entire town is like, aware of chameleon, which I feel like is just a terrible decision for a villain, because if you have a villain as cool as chameleon, where their entire shtick is that they could be anybody at any given time, they could blend in and they could pretend to be any other creature, why wouldn't you use that? Why wouldn't you make that like a big part of the villain's character thing? Why wouldn't they go into the village where Po is? Why wouldn't he pretend to be somebody who is actually really close to Po? Like, I would have found it 10 times more interesting if instead of pretending to be Tai Lung for the 2 minutes in this movie where he pretends to be Tai Lung, I mean, I keep saying she, because the chameleon is Viola Davis's character, it's a she. But I would have liked it a lot more if she turned into like Tigress or one of the original members of the Furious 5. It didn't even need to be Tigress. It could have been literally any of them. And it would have been a really interesting thing, because Po would be like, oh my god, you're back from whatever adventure you went on. And it would have been really refreshing to see that. Also, speaking of the Furious 5, for anybody who's wondering if they're in this, they're not. But I do like the fact that early on in the movie, they address why they're not. And then at the end of the movie, whenever they do like a little training montage, they're back. And it is kind of nice to see them on screen again. But that being said, it's really weird to me that Chameleon, her whole shtick is that she can turn into any creature, she can look like any creature, and the entirety of the movie, she is at kind of her home base, and she's just kind of out at her temple, waiting for people to come attack her. And her whole idea basically is just that she wants power, and it really bothers me because this was a cool concept for a character. They can turn into anybody. They have this kind of vengeance because they felt powerless all their life, but it really bothers me because the character is a very dedicated character. They've always wanted power, but they were too little to learn Kung Fu or whatever. So instead they learned sorcery, and then they taught themselves how to transform into other people and stuff like that. But they basically were talking about how they had so much dedication, and that's how they were able to become a good sorcerer. But they can't become good at fighting because they would need to train for that, I guess. I don't understand that. Like, if she had enough time to master sorcery, she would have had enough time to also master karate around the same time. And using those two skills together would work really, really well. But all of a sudden, it's like, she's like, oh yeah, no, I can look like all these people, but I don't actually have the fighting skills of these people. So she needs to steal them from the spirit realm so that she can get their fighting powers. And then her plan is just to like go destroy the world, which, once again, it's a villain for a little kid's movie. It's going to be pretty straightforward, but it doesn't make sense because we never really get any idea as to why she is as rageful as she is. She just says that she grew up, like, unfortunate. What does that mean? Like, explain that, elaborate on that, because you have an interesting villain here who's played by an incredible actress, and you gave them like no character depth, you gave them no really good like motivation for why they are doing the stuff that they're doing, and it's so disappointing because I was literally genuinely expecting this to be one of the best villains in one of these movies, because Tai Lung, in my opinion, is one of the greatest villains in all of cinema. If I was to rank top 10 villains in all of cinema, he would be on that list. What's it called? I don't know. But I one day I'm going to do it. And I guarantee you, him and Syndrome from Incredibles are probably both going to be on the list because incredible, incredible animated villains. And I love animated movies. But anyways, not the point. But yeah, Tai Lung obviously is going to be really hard to beat. So I wasn't expecting them to beat Tai Lung in this. I believe it's Master Shen. I'm pretty sure that's his name, the peacock from the second movie. Once again, incredible villain, really, really good. The way that they connect him to why all of the pandas had to flee and the reason why Po thought he was the last panda alive, and it's a very interesting storytelling. I think that Kung Fu Panda 2 is one of the best animated movies of all time, and the way that they tie the hero's story into the villain's story was incredibly well done in that movie. And then the third movie, we got Kai. Kai is also a pretty damn good villain, but one of the big things that throws me off about this movie particularly is Chameleon just does what Kai did, essentially. Kai went around and he stole basically the aura, what was it called? He stole the chi of all of these master warriors or whatever, so he would go around and he would, fight Master Chicken or whatever, or Master this person or that, and then he would, get the praying mantis from the Furious 5, and he would get the snake from Furious 5 and the crane from the the Furious Five, and he would steal their chi, and he would become more powerful because he's just stealing their auras, and that's pretty much exactly what the chameleon does in this. She doesn't actually, like, use her powers to sneak in and blend in and, like, infiltrate any cities or anything like that, which is what I feel like they should have done. Like, I'm telling you, if she had infiltrated the city that Poe and them lives in, instead of having Poe go on an adventure to her city to go find her and treat it kind of like a Mario game where, you know, you have to go to the castle to find the person you're trying to attack. Like, it just felt weird. And, like, the fact that they went on a long journey and then immediately got to the place that they needed to go to and immediately went to the big final fight, this entire movie to me just felt insanely rushed. And overall, my two main gripes are Tai Lung is not really in the movie, and Chameleon is a pretty bad villain. Like, one thing that the Kung Fu Panda movies has had consistently, in my opinion, is the villains. I think that all three of the movies, their villains are incredible, and even in the third film, where I think that the quality of the movie drops off a lot, the villain is still a standout, and it's a really, really great character. So for this one to be very underwhelming, it's just really disappointing to me. But to talk about some more positives real quickly before I give you guys my final rating and score of this movie, I think that all of the stuff with Poe's two dads works relatively well in this. Poe goes on this little adventure, and the two dads are, like, both really, really worried about their son, and they're too prideful to really admit that they're worried about their son. So they both go to follow him, but they go to do it sneakily at night, and then they end up having, like, this entire, like, buddy cop type thing where they're going and following them and just being ridiculous and over the top. Every scene with them is hilarious to me. In my opinion, the comedy in this movie isn't as good as the comedy in some of the first ones, but those two absolutely make the movie. It's fantastic. Another thing that I like when they show, like, the underground society of all the people who are, like, robbers and thefts and stuff like that. Ki Hwan's character is pretty interesting. I wish we got a little bit more of him. But I really enjoyed that. And overall, the animation, I think, looks incredible. The fight sequence with the stingray at the beginning of the movie, really, really cool. There's a couple of other fight sequences that I really liked. One specifically that I absolutely loved. There's a fight sequence where Poe ends up in, like, this really, really bright room, and it's basically just his silhouette. And you can see, like, a bunch of people are ganging up on him, and he's just fighting, and you just mostly see just his silhouette, and it's just black and white. He's obviously the black, and then the white is the light that's coming around behind him. And, like, the way that that shot was animated was just incredible. But yeah, really, really enjoyed that. And overall, I think Awkwafina's character is okay. I think that they did not give her enough time to grow, because the big thing is, like, her and Poe, in my opinion, never really, like, clicked like that. And then it gets revealed that Awkwafina's character, like, surprise, this is actually a trap, and I'm leading you right to the chameleon so that she could, you know, steal her thing or whatever. And whenever they do that twist, it was like, they haven't even really gotten close yet. And it was really, really weird. And then they tried to do this redemption arc with her almost immediately, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we needed like 15 more minutes of them spending time together before this twist. And then whenever she was trying to, you know, get back on Poe's good side and, like, be friends with him again, we needed, like, an extra, like, 2 or 3 minutes there. But other than that, I think this movie's pretty solid. I definitely don't think it's the worst movie that DreamWorks has put out in the last couple of weeks. But that being said, I was just slightly disappointed in this movie. My overall score for it, it's a 62. I don't think it's terrible, but I will say I do think it is incredibly disappointing in comparison to the original trilogy, and that's saying a lot because, in my opinion, I think that the third movie was so bad that it ruined the original trilogy for me. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking out this video. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and hopefully stick around, because later this weekend, I'm going to be making a video ranking all 4 of the Kung Fu Panda movies, and it's going to be a great video. But yeah, that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow. Bow. Bow.
Back at it again, but that's irrelevant. Flow so smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.